The chaotic energy of a modern downtown hides a deep human secret. Our ancestors built their cities with astonishing precision, aligning streets with stars and arranging temples as cosmic maps. This ancient drive for order reflects a fundamental part of our psychology, a need to create harmony from the raw chaos of nature. By the end of this journey, you will see the streets of your own city as part of a timeless human story. Why did cultures across the globe independently design their sacred centers as perfect squares and circles? How did mythology transform simple walls into divine protection? The answers are written in stone, waiting to be read. What part of your own world feels most in need of a little more order? That instinct to tidy a cluttered desk or color-code a calendar is far from a modern invention. It is a whisper from our deepest past, a fundamental human trait that first allowed societies to form. Long before we had planners and filing cabinets, our ancestors faced a vast and unpredictable natural world. Their survival depended on finding patterns in the chaos, predicting the turn of the seasons, and reading the signs in the landscape. This primal urge for order is a psychological anchor, a way to comprehend and impose meaning on a world that can often feel random and overwhelming. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung explored this through his ideas of the collective unconscious, suggesting that certain shapes and symbols are embedded in our shared human psyche. The perfect circle, the balanced square, these forms resonate across time and culture because they offer a sense of stability and cosmic belonging. When our earliest ancestors laid out their first permanent settlements, they were doing much more than just building shelters. They were physically manifesting this deep psychological need, creating a microcosm of a harmonious universe. Every straight street was a line of reasoning against disorder. Every wall was a defined boundary against the unknown. This foundational impulse is why we see such strikingly similar urban blueprints emerging independently across the globe. From the meticulously planned grids of the Indus Valley to the sacred layouts of ancient Andean cities, humanity was collectively answering the same deep-seated call. To create a sacred center, a point of order from which meaning could radiate outward into the world. So the next time you feel that quiet satisfaction from organizing a bookshelf, remember you are participating in a ritual as old as civilization itself. This profound need to bring harmony from chaos found its first grand expression when we began building not just shelters, but entire worlds in the image of the cosmos. That priest-astronomer saw the universe not as a random scattering of lights, but as a perfect, intelligible pattern. Their greatest act was to bring that pattern down to earth, to build a city that was a living model of the heavens. This was the first principle of urban design for countless ancient cultures, the idea that a city should be a microcosm of the cosmos itself. The Greek philosopher Plato, in his dialogue Timaeus, described the entire cosmos as a perfectly ordered, geometric living being. This philosophical ideal directly influenced the planning of Hellenistic cities, which were laid out as rational and beautiful entities mirroring that divine blueprint. Streets became earthly rivers aligned with the sun's path at the solstice. Temples were positioned as if they were stars, representing constellations fixed in their proper places. The entire urban area was often divided into sectors that symbolized different realms of existence, the earthly, the celestial, and even the underworld, creating a complete cosmic map for its inhabitants to live within. One of the most universal expressions of this was the division of a city into 4 quarters. This was far more than a practical grid. It corresponded to the 4 cardinal directions, each linked in mythology to elemental forces, seasonal cycles, and specific deities. This created a comprehensive symbolic system where every corner of the city held a deeper cosmic meaning. This act of world-making was not architectural vanity, it was a profound spiritual and political necessity. By physically embedding their kingdom within the grand, orderly framework of the heavens, they believed they secured divine favor and guaranteed the stability and harmony of their entire society. At the very heart of this cosmic map, where the axes of the world crossed, lay the most potent symbol of all, the sacred center. This central point, the sacred axis, was more than a location. It was the city's beating heart and its connection to everything else. Visualize the very center of an ancient metropolis, a place buzzing with life, yet simultaneously serving as a spiritual anchor. This was the axis Mundi, a profound idea found across countless cultures, representing a central pillar linking the earth to the heavens above and the realms below. It was the navel of the world. This concept could take physical form as a great world tree, an artificial mountain, or a towering temple, but its purpose was always the same, to be the unmoving pivot around which all of existence and the city itself was believed to revolve. The influential scholar Mircea Eliade showed how creating this sacred center was the essential first step in founding any city. It was a ritual act that transformed undefined, chaotic land into an organized, meaningful cosmos, a little universe of human order. In practical terms, this meant the city's most vital structure, whether a ziggurat, a pyramid, or a grand temple, was deliberately placed at its exact geometric center. From this point, the main avenues would radiate outward like spokes on a wheel, designed to channel both spiritual energy and political authority from this central source to the very edges of the community. We see this principle etched into history at places like the towering ziggurat of Ur in Mesopotamia, a stairway to the gods built at the heart of the city. It is visible in the sprawling temple of Karnak in Thebes, which was not just a place of worship but the administrative and cosmic core of an entire kingdom. Even the Forbidden City in Beijing, with its meticulous layout, functions on this ancient blueprint, a central point of power that anchored the Chinese world. This deep-seated need for a defining focal point still whispers to us today. When we speak of a downtown or gather in a central city square, are we not, in some small way, answering that same ancient call for a place that grounds and defines our collective identity? With a sacred center firmly established, the city required a boundary, a symbolic container to protect the order within from the chaos without, leading to the next powerful symbol, the defining circle. The circle and the square are more than just shapes, they are ancient declarations of a fundamental human truth. From a bird's eye view, an ancient city's perfect circular wall or its precisely squared boundary was a powerful statement etched into the landscape. These forms were not chosen for convenience, but because they embodied the ultimate ideals of perfection, protection, and cosmic harmony. The unbroken circle, with no beginning and no end, was a direct reflection of the eternal heavens, a symbol of divine unity and the infinite cycle of time. In direct contrast, the stable, four-sided square represented the solidity of the earth itself, grounded in the four cardinal directions and the predictable order of the material world. The true genius of many urban plans was their fusion of these two ideals: a circular ritual center, a sacred space for connection with the divine, would often be nestled securely within a larger, square outer wall that defined the earthly kingdom. This beautiful synthesis was later articulated by the Roman architect Vitruvius, who described the ideal human form, the microcosm, as being perfectly inscribed within both a circle and a square. This was not just an artistic observation, it was a profound philosophical link, directly connecting the proportions of our own bodies to the grand design of the city, and by extension, the entire cosmos. This geometric idealism was made manifest in stone and earth. Circular walls provided not only physical defense but also a symbolic container, protecting the spiritual order within from the formless chaos outside. Inside these walls, the gridded streets of the square plan allowed for rational organization, fair division of land, and the smooth functioning of daily life. It was a perfect marriage of celestial symbolism and terrestrial necessity. We see this principle expressed across the globe. The great Chinese capital of Chang'an was a near-perfect square, its walls and gates meticulously aligned to the cardinal points to embody the Confucian ideal of a perfectly ordered and harmonious state. Meanwhile, many Native American settlements, such as the Hopi Pueblos, were arranged in powerful concentric circles, reflecting a cosmology where life emanated from a central, sacred source. Why does a modern rotunda feel so grand, or a town square so fundamentally right? These forms resonate with us because they echo that ancient blueprint for wholeness. But these perfect shapes were merely the stage. The true drama of the city unfolded along its grand, purposeful avenues, the processional ways designed for both gods and kings. A grand avenue in an ancient city was never just a street. It was a carefully designed theater for the ultimate performance, a path where the entire community could walk through their own mythology. These processional ways were the dynamic lifeblood of the urban plan, transforming stone and space into a living, breathing ritual landscape. While the city's walls and center provided a stable cosmic map, these roads were the paths upon which that map was actively navigated and experienced. Every major festival would see these avenues come alive with color, music, and movement. Priests carried divine effigies, the ruler displayed his authority, and the people participated in a story that defined their world. This was not mere pageantry, it was a profound reenactment of foundational myths, a collective journey that often mirrored a descent into a symbolic underworld and a glorious return to the light. By walking this prescribed path together, the community physically reinforced the social and spiritual order with every single step. The work of researchers like Paul Devereux explores how these sacred pathways were often meticulously aligned with celestial events. A road might be oriented so that on the dawn of the summer solstice, the rising sun would crown the temple at its end in a blaze of light. This turned a simple procession into a direct participation with the cosmos, a moment where the city's earthly order and the universe's celestial order were perfectly synchronized. We can see this principle etched into the stones of history. The Via Sacra in Rome was not merely a road through the Forum, it was the triumphant path of generals and emperors, a route that connected the profane world to the most sacred precincts. The long, sloping causeway leading to the Great Pyramid of Giza served as a celestial ramp, guiding the soul of the departed pharaoh to the stars, and the vast street of the dead in Teotihuacan, stretching for miles and aligned with precise astronomical accuracy, orchestrated the movement of thousands in a symbolic landscape of mountains and pyramids that represented the very story of creation. This choreographed movement was a powerful form of social conditioning. It visually impressed upon every citizen, from the highest noble to the lowest laborer, the unchanging hierarchy and the spiritual truths that bound them all. The grandeur of the temples, the imposing statues of rulers and gods lining the route, all communicated a clear message about the source of power and the nature of the universe. Can you feel a faint remnant of this when you walk the National Mall in Washington, D.C., or approach the grand staircase of a Capitol building? That sense of occasion, of participating in something larger than yourself, is a distant echo of those ancient ritual paths. This masterful orchestration of space and movement all flowed from a single, overarching vision, a grand design that governed every aspect of the city's existence from its sacred center to its outermost gate. The first line of a city was never drawn in sand but in the substance of myth. Rome's legendary founder, Romulus, did not merely stake a claim, he plowed a sacred furrow, a boundary that was simultaneously a legal contract and a religious rite. This single act reveals a profound truth. The master plan of an ancient city was far more than an architectural sketch. It was a cosmological and legal document, a blueprint for reality itself. Its authority was drawn from omens, celestial patterns, or the direct command of a deity, ensuring the city's very existence was in harmony with cosmic law. This divine alignment granted the community its legitimacy, its reason for being. The great philosopher Aristotle, in his work Politics, would later articulate a principle these early founders intuitively understood, that the physical design of a city must actively foster good citizenship. The arrangement of streets, temples, and public spaces was a deliberate mechanism for shaping a harmonious society, a translation of philosophical ideals into stone and space. This visionary approach to urban order was not a fleeting trend but a remarkably persistent force. Consider the sprawling city of Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley. As early as 2,500 years before the Common Era, its citizens lived within a meticulously standardized grid plan, complete with advanced drainage and public baths, a level of centralized planning that would not re-emerge in Europe for thousands of years. This was not haphazard growth, it was the product of a powerful, shared vision. The foundational myths themselves served as the sacred charter for this order. The story of Athena and Poseidon's contest for Athens was not merely an entertaining tale. It was the divine justification for the city's layout, its patron deity, and the entire social structure that followed. The myth explained why the city was hers and why it was arranged as it was. This is why the ghost of a city's original plan often lingers for centuries, visible in the stubborn curve of a modern road or the enduring location of a central square. It speaks to the enduring power of that initial, visionary act of ordering the world. To truly grasp the precision of these ancient blueprints, we must lift our gaze from the earth to the sky, where the architects of old found their most perfect and unwavering measuring instruments. That ancient builder, waiting for the sunset to kiss the causeway, held a profound truth. The stars were their unerring blueprint. Celestial alignment was the ultimate act of ordering the human world, a way to tether the fleeting nature of our existence to the majestic, predictable cycles of the cosmos. This was not a vague aspiration but a precise science, using the sun, moon, and stars as the most reliable measuring tools imaginable. The work of archaeoastronomers like Anthony Aveni reveals how structures we might see as simple monuments were in fact sophisticated observatories. Stonehenge marks the solstices with breathtaking accuracy. The Sun Temple at Machu Picchu captures the sun's rays at specific turning points of the year. The unusual circular building known as the Caracol at Chichen Itza is aligned to the path of Venus, a planet of deep mythological significance. This celestial choreography served a dual purpose. On a practical level, aligning a city to the cardinal directions created a predictable grid for navigation, trade, and the fair division of land. It brought the sun into every home, governed planting and harvest times, and created a shared, reliable calendar for the entire community. But the spiritual dimension was even more powerful. By ensuring the city participated in the eternal cycles of solstices and equinoxes, its people believed they were guaranteeing their own renewal, linking their fate to the death and rebirth of the sun itself. The Romans perfected this idea into a portable system of order. The Cardo and Decumanus, the main north-south and east-west streets of their military camps and new cities, were laid out using solar observations. This created a replicable template for civilization, a predictable grid that could be deployed anywhere from the deserts of North Africa to the forests of Britannia, imposing Roman cosmic order upon any landscape. This ancient desire to synchronize with a cosmic standard never left us. Our entire modern world runs on Greenwich Mean Time, a single, agreed-upon meridian that orders global commerce and travel. Our GPS devices triangulate our position using signals from satellites, a high-tech echo of those ancient astronomers reading the stars. We are still, in our own way, aligning our human world to an invisible celestial grid. Yet, while the precision of astronomy gave the city its enduring form, its true soul was always breathed into it by story. Those towering stone walls were far more than just military engineering. They stood as a physical declaration against the formless chaos of the wilderness, a symbolic bulwark against evil spirits and the unknown terrors of the night. Their construction was often a sacred act, a ritual that transformed simple fortification into a divine shield. Across the ancient world, mythology provided the powerful narrative that sanctified these boundaries. The gods themselves were often credited as the master builders. In the myth of Troy, it was the deities Apollo and Poseidon who, in service to a king, built the city's legendary walls, lending them an aura of divine invincibility. The famous walls of Babylon, celebrated as one of the seven wonders, were not just admired for their immense scale and strength. They were intrinsically linked to the city's patron god, Marduk. Defending these walls became a religious duty for every citizen, and their eventual breach was not merely a military defeat but a true cosmic catastrophe, a tear in the fabric of their ordered world. The very founding of a city frequently involved elaborate rituals to secure this protection. Priests would walk the proposed perimeter, purifying the land with chants and offerings. In many cultures, foundation deposits were buried at key points beneath the walls, items meant to appease the spirits of the earth. Research suggests that some traditions involved more solemn practices, where the community sought to secure the favor of guardian spirits through a profound ceremonial commitment, embedding the myth of protection directly into the city's physical substance. This symbolic approach to defense was a global phenomenon. In Chinese geomancy, known as feng shui, the placement of city walls, gates, and even the orientation toward surrounding mountains was meticulously calculated. The goal was to channel beneficial energies, or Kai, into the city while deflecting malevolent forces, seamlessly integrating military concerns into a holistic, cosmic system of order. This deep-seated psychological need for a defined and defended space still echoes in our modern world. How does the concept of a gated community with its guarded entrance and perimeter fence reflect that ancient impulse? Or the powerful symbolism of a national border, a line on a map that defines who is inside the circle of order and who remains outside? While walls provided a hard boundary against the external world, the internal organization of the city was governed by a different kind of structure, the social hierarchy, physically manifested in its very districts. That walk from a cramped lane to an elevated palace was a lesson in power, written not on parchment but in the very stone beneath your feet. The ancient city was a living diagram of its social pyramid, with every street and district assigned a precise place in the hierarchy. This was not accidental urban sprawl, it was deliberate social engineering. The physical separation of classes and professions made the abstract concept of social order visible, tangible, and seemingly as permanent as the mountains. In ancient India, texts like the Laws of Manu laid out a cosmic blueprint for society, the Varna system, which was directly translated into city planning. The city would have distinct quarters for the priestly Brahmins, the warrior Kshatriyas, the merchant Vaishyas, and the laboring Shudras. Your address was your identity, a constant physical reminder of your prescribed role in the grand scheme of Dharma, the cosmic law. This zoning served multiple, interlocking purposes. It was a mechanism of control, making surveillance and administration easier for the ruling elite. It was about efficiency, grouping related crafts and trades together, and profoundly, it was about ritual purity. Activities considered polluting, such as tanning hides or firing pottery, were systematically placed downstream and downwind from the pristine quarters of the nobility and the sacred precincts of the temples. You can see this principle in its most dramatic form in Athens. The Acropolis, a sheer rock rising high above the urban landscape, was the exclusive domain of the gods and the political elite who served them. Its elevated position was both literal and symbolic, a world apart from the daily life below. The agora, the public square at its foot, was the bustling heart of civic life, but even this was primarily the realm of free male citizens. Further out, in the warren of residential streets, lived the vast majority of the population, women, foreigners, and enslaved individuals, their physical location reinforcing their limited social and political access. This ancient logic of division never truly vanished, it simply evolved. Consider the modern city. Do our gleaming financial districts, with their towering citadels of glass and steel, not function like a secular acropolis? Are our outlying industrial parks and warehouses not the modern equivalent of the downwind craft quarters, kept at a distance from affluent residential enclaves? The tools have changed, but the underlying impulse to spatially organize society according to status and function remains a powerful force. To sustain this intricate social machine, the city needed to master one fundamental resource: the flow of water itself. A city's true power was measured not just by its walls, but by the silent, mathematical flow of its water. This hydraulic order was the ultimate act of cosmic control, a society's bold declaration that even the primordial chaos of flood and drought could be tamed by human will and divine mandate. Managing water required a staggering level of centralized planning and mathematical foresight, turning a life-giving but destructive force into a predictable, orderly resource. In the mythology of Mesopotamia, this profound connection was personified by the god Enki, the master of the fresh waters known as the Abzu. Enki was not just a water deity, he was the patron of wisdom, magic, and creation itself. To control water in this worldview was to wield the very knowledge the gods used to establish civilization. This philosophical link between hydraulic engineering and cosmic order is etched into the ruins of history. The Minoan palace of Knossos boasted sophisticated terracotta pipes for fresh water and drainage, a testament to a society that saw cleanliness and flow as part of a refined, orderly existence. The sprawling complex of Angkor Wat was sustained by a massive, meticulously engineered system of reservoirs and canals that managed the monsoon rains, turning a seasonal deluge into a year-round lifeline. And the iconic Roman aqueducts marching across the landscape were not merely functional, they were monumental symbols of an empire's power to bend nature to its law, bringing pure, ordered water from distant mountains directly into the heart of the city. This control often began at a sacred source. Many cities were deliberately founded at the confluence of two rivers or beside a holy spring. These were seen as liminal places, thin spots in the world where the divine order broke through into the human realm. To control that specific water source was therefore a sacred act, akin to harnessing a piece of the god's own domain for the benefit of the ordered community. Our modern existence continues this ancient quest in a profound way. We simply do not see the vast, invisible infrastructure that brings us water and power with the turn of a tap or the flip of a switch. This incredible convenience is the culmination of that age-old drive to domesticate the wild forces of nature, to create a predictable environment insulated from the chaos that once dictated human survival. This mastery over water supported the life of the city, but its soul was housed in structures that reached beyond earthly concerns, in the temples and pyramids that served as stairways to the heavens. That staggering pyramid silhouette was a profound declaration in stone. These structures were not built to scale the heavens, but to pull them down to earth, creating a permanent, tangible link between the human and the divine. They were the ultimate architectural anchors for the cosmic order. In Egypt, the smooth-sided pyramid was a solidified ray of the sun, a ramp for the pharaoh's soul to ascend and join the eternal circuit of the stars. In Mesoamerica, the stepped pyramid was a symbolic world mountain, its tiers representing the layers of creation and a stairway for priests to climb closer to the gods. In Greece, the Parthenon was not merely a house for Athena, it was a perfect marble expression of mathematical harmony, its proportions based on the golden ratio, a number believed to underpin the beauty of the universe itself. This was architecture as frozen philosophy, every angle and measurement encoding a deep understanding of cosmic law. The sheer act of building these monuments was a societal ritual of immense power. Mobilizing thousands of workers, from skilled stonemasons to laborers, for generations required a breathtaking concentration of authority and resources. This was not simply forced labor, it was a collective project that reinforced the social contract, demonstrating the ruler's unique ability to commune with the gods and manifest their will on an epic scale. It physically proved the hierarchy's power while uniting the population in a shared, sacred endeavor. These structures became the undeniable focal point of the entire urban landscape. The long processional way led directly to their base, the city's main avenues aligned with their corners. They were the axis mundi made manifest, a constant, visible reminder to every citizen, in every corner of the city, that their lives were part of a grand, orderly design governed by forces greater than themselves. What then is our modern equivalent? Our skyscrapers pierce the clouds, monuments to commerce and human ambition. Our space centers reach for the planets, temples to our scientific curiosity. They are our own aspirational architecture, reflecting the gods of progress and discovery we have chosen to worship. While these structures reached ambitiously for the sky, the ancient quest for order also required a deep connection to what lay beneath, to the earth itself and the silent, watchful presence of the ancestors. Beneath the sunlit streets and celestial temples lay another world, a necessary realm of shadow and silence. For ancient city builders, a truly complete cosmic order had to honor not only the heavens above but also the earth below, acknowledging the underworld as a source of fertility, ancestral wisdom, and the essential cycle of rebirth. This chthonic aspect of urban design integrated the deep earth into the city's very soul. In Roman cities, the foundation ritual included the creation of the mundus, a sacred pit believed to be a passageway to the underworld. On specific days throughout the year, this stone-covered shaft was ceremonially opened, allowing for communication with the dei inferi, the gods below, and ensuring their blessings for the community above ground. This was not an act of fear, but of profound respect for the foundational powers that sustained life itself. The physical layout of many ancient settlements made this connection visible. Grand necropolises, these cities of the dead, were not hidden away but were integral features of the sacred landscape. The Valley of the Kings across the river from Thebes and the intricate Etruscan tomb complexes at Servatory were not separate spaces, they were extensions of the urban domain. The ancestors were physically present, their resting places woven into the city's geography and social memory. Walking through these vast memorial sites, one would find their organization eerily familiar. They often mirrored the city of the living, with processional avenues, family tombs arranged like houses, and even social status reflected in the size and ornamentation of the structures. This created a parallel, orderly world for the departed, a silent community that supported and legitimized the world of the living. This deep, integrated relationship with the ancestral past stands in quiet contrast to our modern practice, where memorial parks are often placed on the city's outskirts, visited occasionally rather than woven into the fabric of daily life. How does this spatial separation reflect a changed understanding of our connection to those who came before us? This sacred reverence for the past, for the roots that anchored a society, was ultimately codified in the powerful, foundational rituals that gave a city its legal and spiritual birth. The first stone was not just laid, it was consecrated. This founding ritual was a profound act of world-making, a performative spell that called the city into being as a sacred entity. A priest-king would read the omens in the flight of birds, seeking a divine yes. A pure animal would be offered, its life force believed to seal a covenant between the community and the powers that govern the world. Then, with a ceremonial plow, the leader would trace a sacred boundary in the earth, a furrow that separated the ordered world of the city from the untamed chaos of the wilderness beyond. Each gesture was heavy with meaning, each step a deliberate echo of the god's own primordial act of ordering the universe from the void. This was the Roman inauguratio, a ceremony where augurs would first mark out a sacred template in the sky, a zone for reading celestial signs, and then project that very template down onto the earth, ensuring the city's foundation was literally mapped onto the will of the heavens. The myth of Cadmus founding Thebes by sowing dragon's teeth, from which armed warriors sprang, was more than a fantastical story. It was a symbolic script for this very struggle, illustrating the violent yet fertile conflict required to establish civilization and the absolute necessity of a strong, ordered community to manage that inherent power. The materials chosen for these rites were not arbitrary. Specific stones, consecrated waters, and the potent symbolism of the sacrifice were all believed to imbue the city's foundations with enduring qualities, strength, fertility, and divine protection that would last for all time. Can you see the faint outline of these ancient acts in a modern groundbreaking ceremony, where a golden shovel turns the soil and dignitaries speak of a bright future? We are still performing the ritual of place-making, though the metaphysical language has changed. But a city, once born, could not be left to its own devices. Its sacred order was a living thing that required constant renewal through a calendar of public rituals that synchronized every human heartbeat with the grand, turning rhythms of the cosmos. The entire city held its breath on the day of the great festival. Normal life ceased, shops closed, and the daily rhythm of commerce and labor gave way to a profound collective performance. This was the ritual calendar in action, the temporal heartbeat of the urban machine, perfectly synchronized with the turning of the cosmos itself. If the city's layout was a map of the sacred order, then its calendar was the schedule for maintaining it. This carefully orchestrated cycle of feasts, sacrifices, and public dramas did more than just mark time. It actively renewed the city's spiritual contract with the gods and the natural world, reinforcing the social bonds that held the community together. In Mesopotamia, the entire population participated in the Akitu festival, a multi-day event that was far more than a simple celebration. The statue of the chief god Marduk was ceremonially taken from his inner sanctuary and paraded through the city streets, even traveling beyond the protective walls into the symbolic wilderness. This journey represented a descent into chaos, a temporary unraveling of the established order. Its triumphant return to the temple was a dramatic reenactment of the creation myth itself, a ritual believed to literally re-establish world order and guarantee fertility and stability for the year to come. The timing of these events was never arbitrary. These ancient calendars were intricately woven into the fabric of the sky. The summer solstice, the spring equinox, the first pre-dawn appearance of the star Sirius, these celestial moments served as inflexible anchors for the ritual year. This created a beautiful, seamless integration where the movement of the heavens dictated the timing of planting and harvest, which in turn framed the religious ceremonies that sought to ensure those harvests were bountiful. The city's physical design was the essential stage for this cosmic theater. Its wide, straight processional avenues were not for daily traffic but for the grand passage of gods and choirs. Its vast public squares could accommodate thousands of participants, transforming the populace from spectators into actors in their own foundational story. And its temples provided the dramatic backdrops, their stairways and gates serving as potent symbols of ascension and divine encounter. Can you feel the echo of this in our own modern rhythms? Our New Year's Eve countdowns with their themes of renewal and resolution, our national independence days with their parades and shared narratives, even the weekly cycle of work and rest, these are our secularized versions of that ancient drive. They create a shared rhythm, reinforce a collective identity, and offer a regular, predictable renewal of our social contract. This profound synchronization of life and cosmos was not just expressed through time, but was physically encoded into the city's very blueprint through a universal language of shapes and proportions known as sacred geometry. The precise spiral of a nautilus shell and the perfect hexagons of a honeycomb were not just beautiful accidents to the ancient mind. They were pages from a divine manuscript written in a language of number and form. This is the realm of sacred geometry, the conviction that specific mathematical ratios hold an inherent spiritual power, a key to unlocking cosmic harmony. By weaving this divine language into their cities, planners believed they could build environments that did more than shelter the body, they could awaken the soul. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras and his followers championed the idea that all is number. They saw the universe as a vast, intelligible structure built from geometric principles, and to comprehend these principles was to glimpse the very mind that conceived creation. This was not abstract philosophy, it was a practical guide for builders. We see its breathtaking application in the subtle curves of the Parthenon, where the ratio known as the golden ratio, approximately 1.618, governs the relationship between its parts, creating a visual harmony that feels eternally right. In the temple city of Madurai in India, the entire urban plan is a vast, intricate mandala, a cosmic diagram laid out in streets and walls, designed to guide the devotee through a symbolic journey of spiritual ascent. And in the soaring arches and courtyards of Islamic architecture, complex fractal patterns repeat in tilework, a visual echo of the infinite complexity and unity of the divine. For the city planner, this was the ultimate act of ordering, dividing land, orienting temples, and setting the proportions of public spaces were all done according to this sacred calculus. The city itself became a massive geometric diagram, a physical equation representing the structure of the cosmos. Why does a modern building that subtly incorporates the golden ratio still feel so instinctively balanced and serene? It resonates with a deep, almost forgotten pattern, a harmonic frequency embedded in the world and within us. This universal template of mathematical order, however, was a starting point, not a final destination. Its application blossomed into a stunning diversity of urban forms, as each culture projected its own unique mythology and world view onto the blank slate of the geometric ideal. The stones of Thebes were not merely built, they were composed to be read. On the east bank of the Nile, the Karnak temple complex rises like a petrified forest, its very axis aligned with the river's flow and the sun's path. This was a deliberate choreography, a physical script that narrated the daily journey of the sun god Amun-Ra in his solar bark across the sky. The entire city was a vast, open-air monument to a theological order where geography was destiny. The rising sun on the east bank illuminated the domains of the gods and the living, the colossal temples of Karnak and Luxor. The setting sun on the west bank cast long shadows over the realm of the departed, the Valley of the Kings, and the majestic mortuary temples carved into the cliffs. This was not a simple urban plan. It was a cosmic map etched into the desert, dividing the world of the living from the world of the dead with the Nile as its flowing, life-giving spine. This sacred geography came alive during the annual Opet festival. The statues of the gods were carried from their inner sanctuaries at Karnak and placed on magnificent ceremonial boats. A grand procession of priests, soldiers, and dancers would then escort these divine effigies along the avenue of sphinxes connecting Karnak to Luxor Temple. This was far more than a parade, it was the ritual rejuvenation of the universe itself, As the gods traveled, they were believed to renew the divine power of the pharaoh, the living god on earth. His strengthened authority was what maintained Mot, the essential principle of cosmic order, truth, and justice that prevented the world from falling back into chaos. The city itself functioned as an engine for this cosmic maintenance, its processional ways serving as the conduits for this vital spiritual energy. The design was profoundly axial and linear, emphasizing a sacred journey rather than a static grid. Every step along the processional route from Karnak to Luxor, and every crossing of the Nile to the western necropolis, reinforced the central narrative of existence, the connection between the living pharaoh and his divine ancestors, and the perpetual cycle of death and rebirth. And for those who could read it, the entire city was a permanent text. Hieroglyphs and vast carved scenes depicting myths, rituals, and royal triumphs covered every column and wall surface. This was not simple decoration, it was a perpetual broadcast of the principles of Mot, ensuring that the divine order was visible, legible, and inescapable for every citizen, from the highest priest to the most humble laborer. The Egyptian model achieved order through a theocratic vision centered on a god-king. Yet this was only one answer to the human quest for structure. Another ancient culture would build its legendary stability not on a pharaoh's divinity, but on a foundation of written law accessible to all its citizens. The Agora of Athens hummed with a different kind of energy than the sacred processions of Thebes. Here, the dominant sound was not a hymn to a god, but the heated debate of citizens shaping their own laws. This open square was the vibrant, beating heart of the polis, the city-state, a physical manifestation of a radical new ideal, isonomia, equality before the law. In this space, the order was not handed down from a distant pharaoh god, but built from the ground up through public discourse, jury service, and collective decision-making. The entire urban design of Athens reflected this profound shift. While the Acropolis stood majestically above as the home of the gods, the city below was intentionally human-centric. Its streets did not follow a rigid, imperial grid. Instead, they wound in an organic, almost chaotic pattern, encouraging chance encounters, spontaneous arguments, and the constant, messy exchange of ideas that is the lifeblood of a democracy. This was a city built not for processions of priests, but for conversations among citizens. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle saw this environment as essential. They theorized that the city itself was a school for virtue, and that its physical layout could actively shape moral character and foster civic engagement. The strategic placement of key buildings around the agora turned the entire area into a civic acropolis, a direct counterbalance to the sacred power looming on the hill. The Bouleuterion, where a council of 500 citizens met to set the public agenda, the Tholos, the seat of the rotating executive committee, and the Stoa Poikile, a painted colonnade where philosophers like Zeno would gather their followers. These structures formed a campus for democracy. Here, the abstract concept of popular rule was made tangible, a daily reality you could see, hear, and participate in. Mythology was never absent, of course. The foundational story of Athena gifting the olive tree to the city still justified Athenian identity and supremacy. The great Panathenaic procession still wove its way through those very streets, carrying a sacred robe to the goddess's statue on the Acropolis. Yet, the ultimate source of order had fundamentally changed. It was now seen to reside in human reason and collective agreement, in the logos and the votes of the people, not solely in divine decree. This was an order built on speech and law, a system designed to manage human conflict and ambition through civic institutions rather than oracles. Can you see the legacy of this Greek ideal in our modern civic centers and public squares? Those spaces intentionally designed for gathering, for protest, for the exercise of public voice. They are our own attempts to build a stage for the people, however imperfect. From the democratic experiment of Greece, where order emerged from the crowd, we turn to a civilization that engineered order on an unprecedented scale, constructing the ultimate machine of imperial control. The Roman surveyor's grid was a declaration of absolute control, etched into the soil of 100 different landscapes. Wherever the legions marched, the grammaticus followed, planting his staff to map an unwavering logic of straight lines and right angles over the contours of conquered land. This was the Cardo and Decumanus, the great north-south and east-west arteries that formed the skeleton of every new Roman town. It was an act of intellectual conquest as powerful as any military victory, imposing a single, rational order onto what Rome perceived as the chaotic and untamed territories of foreign peoples. The Roman concept of order was not primarily spiritual or cosmic. It was pragmatic, legal, and ruthlessly efficient. The city functioned as a vital node in a vast imperial network, and its standardized blueprint, adapted directly from the layout of the military camp or castrum, was a master tool for administration, taxation, and the systematic Romanization of subject populations. This physical plan was a lesson in itself, teaching new citizens how to live, trade, and govern according to a universal model. Its authority was sustained by a potent national myth, that of Roma Aeterna, eternal Rome. This was not just patriotic pride. It was a theological and historical conviction that Rome had a divine destiny to bring civilization and the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, to the entire world. This mission was seen as sanctioned first by Jupiter and the traditional pantheon, and later, under Emperor Constantine, seamlessly adopted by the Christian God. The city's magnificent infrastructure was the proof of this civilizing mission. The soaring aqueducts were not merely plumbing, they were monumental declarations of Rome's power to command nature itself, to bring life-giving order to arid lands. The vast network of roads, the elegant public baths, and the bustling forums were all presented as the benefits of a superior, orderly way of life, tangible rewards for accepting Roman rule. Within the city itself, this order grew increasingly complex and zoned to manage the immense scale of the imperial capital. The Forum Romanum remained the ancient political and religious heart, but it was soon joined by specialized centers of power. The Forum Boarium catered to the messy vitality of commerce, while the grandiose Forum of Trajan served as a monumental tribute to imperial authority, a space designed to overwhelm the citizen with the sheer scale of the emperor's power and generosity. This was a highly sophisticated urban system, one that could manage everything from global trade to the personal vanity of its rulers. The Roman model represents perhaps the most influential application of order as a scalable, repeatable system for building and managing a world empire. Its legacy is written into the very streets of modern planned cities. How does the grand, diagonal avenue of a capital city like Washington, D.C. recall the symbolic power of the Cardo Maximus? How does the sweeping, monumental scale of a city like Brasilia reflect that same desire to impose a rational, universal blueprint upon a landscape? We are still building according to the Roman playbook, using urban design to project ideals of power, unity, and control. As the light of Roman authority dimmed, a new, powerful model of order was already taking shape in the deserts of Arabia, one that would unite a disparate world under the banner of a single, unifying faith. The call to prayer did not simply mark the time, it wove the entire city into a single spiritual fabric. From the towering minaret of the central Friday Mosque, this daily rhythm coordinated the lives of thousands, drawing them inward toward a sacred core. This was the genius of the Islamic city, an urban form where every winding alley and quiet courtyard was an expression of a unifying faith. The city's entire organization revolved around two essential poles, the Masjid al-Jami for communal worship and the bustling souk for economic and social exchange, often nestled side by side at the very heart of the community. This was not a city designed for imperial armies or grand chariot processions. Its labyrinth of narrow streets and sudden cul-de-sacs served a different master: the values of family privacy, community cohesion, and protection from the harsh sun. The urban fabric was cellular, composed of distinct neighborhoods known as harat, each a close-knit community often centered on its own local mosque. This intricate layout reflected a profound cosmological vision, one that prioritized the inner, spiritual journey of the individual believer over external displays of political power. The ultimate orientation for every soul was not a royal palace, but the mihrab, the prayer niche in every mosque that pointed unfailingly toward Mecca, the spiritual center of the entire Islamic world. This divine orientation created an invisible but powerful grid of faith that unified cities from Cordoba to Cairo. This theocentric order was also deeply practical, codified in the principles of Sharia law, which shaped the very bricks and mortar of daily life. The design of a typical home, with its blank outer walls shielding a private, inward-facing courtyard, was a physical manifestation of the value placed on family and modesty. Public institutions like the neighborhood hammam or bath and the madrasa or school were strategically placed to serve the community, creating a holistic environment that supported a pious and integrated life from childhood to old age. The result was a city that felt profoundly human in scale, a walkable environment where the needs of the spirit and the community were placed above all else. Does this ancient model, with its emphasis on privacy, tight-knit neighborhoods, and pedestrian-friendly streets, sound surprisingly modern? Many of today's new urbanist planners, who advocate for walkable communities and mixed-use neighborhoods, are in fact championing principles that were perfected centuries ago in the ancient souks and harat of the Islamic world. Our final case study takes us across the Atlantic to a city where the very stones were a map of time and the cosmos. The sheer scale of Teotihuacan is humbling, a geometric landscape that seems to dwarf the individual. Walking the Avenue of the Dead, you are not merely a visitor but a participant in a vast astronomical machine, where the horizon is punctuated by colossal pyramids positioned with celestial intent. This entire metropolis, one of the largest in the ancient world, was deliberately oriented not to true north but 15.5 degrees east of it. Researchers suggest this precise alignment may have targeted the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial marker of profound importance in Mesoamerican timekeeping. Scattered throughout the city, archaeologists have found curious designs known as pecked cross circles, patterns of small holes drilled into the stone floor. These were not random but likely functioned as surveyors' tools, a permanent network of markers used to calibrate the city's layout against the heavens, ensuring its cosmic alignment was maintained for generations. This celestial blueprint extends to the relationship between its greatest structures, the pyramids of the sun and moon, and the sprawling Ciudadela, with its temple of the feathered serpent, are not placed arbitrarily. They form a distinct geometric pattern on the ground, one that some scholars propose mirrors the three stars of Orion's belt. In the mythology of the region, these stars were seen as a cosmic hearth, the very place of creation. This was not just a city modeled on the stars, it was believed to be the place where time began, where the gods sacrificed themselves to bring about the current era of the world. For a pilgrim arriving from a distant village, walking this avenue was to tread upon the ground of Genesis itself. The architecture reinforced this sacred narrative at every turn. The distinctive tallard table row style, with its sloping base and vertical panel, and the vibrant murals depicting gods, water, and fertility, were not mere decoration. They were a continuous visual sermon telling the story of creation and the divine order that citizens were obligated to uphold. What makes Teotihuacan so enigmatic and so revolutionary is the source of its power. Unlike the pharaohs of Egypt or the emperors of Rome, there is no grand palace, no colossal statues of a singular ruler, no royal tombs filled with riches. For centuries, the city thrived as a massive, complex society, home to over 100,000 people, yet it seems to have been governed by a collective, perhaps a council of elders or a priestly class, all united by a shared ideology. The order of Teotihuacan was not imposed by the ego of a king, but emerged from a collective commitment to a grand cosmological project. A citizen's identity and purpose were defined by their participation in maintaining this sacred replica of the universe. This raises a profound question for our understanding of human civilization. Must large-scale, complex order always be built upon the will of a single autocrat? Teotihuacan stands as a powerful, silent argument that there are other paths, that a shared vision of cosmic harmony can be a potent, unifying force capable of orchestrating a metropolis for centuries. The principles these ancient cultures forged in stone and ceremony did not vanish with their empires. They became the invisible foundations upon which our own modern world was built. The ghost of the ancient grid still dictates the flow of our morning commute. Look at the map of a modern metropolis like New York or New Delhi, and you will see the same organizing principles that once guided the builders of Mohenjo-Daro and Chang'an. The relentless city block, the central axis of a grand boulevard, the clear zoning of financial and residential districts, these are not modern inventions but the enduring legacy of that primal human drive to impose spatial harmony on our world. This inheritance was made explicit during the Baroque period, when planners for cities like Versailles and Washington, D.C. deployed vast, radiating avenues and powerful focal points. These designs were a direct symbolic language borrowed from Imperial Rome, using axiality to express the absolute power of a sun king or the lofty ideals of a new democratic republic, proving that the geometry of authority remains remarkably consistent across the centuries. This conversation with the past continued with the City Beautiful movement. In response to the overwhelming noise and hardship of the industrial city, architects and planners consciously turned back to classical principles. They envisioned grand boulevards, gleaming civic centers, and monumental public buildings, believing that such an environment of order and beauty could actively combat urban squalor and foster moral and civic virtue among its citizens. It was an attempt to heal the chaos of the machine age with the timeless grammar of harmony. Even the radical break of modernism in the 20th century was, in its own way, a reinterpretation of this ancient quest. Its towers rising from open plazas and its strict separation of functions through zoning were a utopian dream of a rational, healthy, and orderly urban environment. Yet this dream often faltered, sacrificing the human scale, the symbolic richness, and the intricate social fabric that made ancient cities feel so profoundly alive. Today, we see a conscious effort to recover what was lost. Movements like new urbanism and transit-oriented development are not merely architectural trends, they are a direct response to the perceived failures of modernist planning. By championing walkable neighborhoods, mixed-use streets, and defined public centers, they seek to reintroduce the very qualities that made the Agora of Athens or the Harat of an Islamic city so successful: a sense of community, chance encounter, and belonging. This reveals that our search for the ideal urban form is not a linear progression but a continuous, evolving dialogue between the poles of chaos and order. So how do we, as the current stewards of this ancient project, consciously learn from these models? We can embrace the ancient wisdom of the human scale while integrating our modern needs for sustainability and equity, creating cities that are not only efficient but also meaningful. Yet as we do so, we must also remain mindful of history's cautionary tales, for the very impulse to order our world contains within it the potential for a different kind of challenge, one that emerges when the desire for harmony becomes an overly rigid imposition of control. That perfect geometric plan, so beautiful from a distance, could feel like a cage for those living within its lines. The same straight avenues that channeled divine energy also channeled soldiers, allowing a central authority to monitor and control its population with unprecedented efficiency. This is the shadow of order, the point where the human drive for harmony curdles into a mechanism of oppression. A city designed as a cosmic map could become a panopticon, where the ruling elite, positioned at the sacred center, enjoyed a clear, commanding view of every citizen's movement. Conformity was not just a social expectation, it was a spiritual and political mandate enforced under the solemn guise of maintaining the cosmic balance. Any act of dissent, any expression of individuality that deviated from the grand design, could be framed as a threat to the stability of the entire universe. Historian James C. Scott, in his work Seeing Like a State, explores how grand utopian schemes of planning often fail because they impose a simplistic, legible order. They ignore the complex, messy realities of local knowledge and human social life, a critique that applies just as powerfully to some ancient theocratic states as it does to modern ones. The foundational myths that gave a city its sacred identity could also be profoundly exclusionary. They drew a sharp, indelible line between those who belonged to the ordered cosmos of the city and those who were outsiders, barbarians, or enslaved individuals. This narrative justified conquest and stark inequality as necessary sacrifices for the greater good, for the maintenance of the divine and social order. The very walls that offered safety to those inside could become instruments of imprisonment, while the sacred boundaries that define the community were used to ostracize and demonize anyone on the outside. This cautionary tale reminds us that the quest for order must be balanced with flexibility, empathy, and a deep respect for the organic, unpredictable nature of human life. How can we strive for the benefits of order for safety, efficiency, and beauty without falling into the trap of authoritarian control and the loss of human freedom and diversity? This critical perspective invites us to look forward, to imagine how this ancient human quest can evolve to create cities that are not only harmonious but also truly just and free. The rigid grid of the industrial city is giving way to a new vision, one where urban design learns from the wisdom of the natural world. This emerging paradigm sees the city not as a machine to be controlled, but as a living ecosystem to be cultivated. Ancient planners looked to the heavens for their blueprints, but future urbanists are looking to the forest floor, the termite mound, and the human circulatory system. This approach, known as biomimicry, seeks solutions by emulating nature's time-tested patterns and strategies. Imagine a building facade that breathes like a leaf, its pores opening and closing to regulate temperature and air quality. Envision a transit network that mimics the efficient, branching patterns of a leaf's veins, redistributing resources and people with minimal friction and energy loss. Consider a structural framework inspired by the resilient, distributed networks of fungal mycelium, creating a city that can self-repair and adapt to stress. This is not a rejection of order, but an evolution toward a more resilient, organic harmony that works with ecological principles rather than imposing a brittle, geometric will upon them. Guiding this complex, living system will be the silent, constant intelligence of artificial networks. Where ancient priests read the stars to align their temples, future systems will use vast streams of data to orchestrate a dynamic urban metabolism. Artificial intelligence could manage traffic flow in real time, not with rigid stoplights, but with a fluid, adaptive rhythm that ebbs and flows like a natural current. It could balance the entire electrical grid, drawing power from 1 million distributed sources, from solar panels to the kinetic energy of footsteps, creating a stable yet decentralized energy web. This represents a new kind of sacred geometry, a digital one, where the invisible algorithms maintain a continuous, optimal balance between human needs and planetary health. The order it creates is not carved in stone, but is fluid and responsive, a living dance of information. At the heart of this intelligent ecosystem, we may witness the return of the sacred center. It may not be a pyramid or a cathedral, but a central park that serves as the city's green lung and communal heart. It could be a transparent data hub where citizens visualize the city's real-time vitality, or a vibrant, multi-use plaza designed for spontaneous gathering and cultural exchange. In an increasingly virtual and globalized world, these spaces would fulfill that ancient, deep-seated need for a physical anchor, a place that fosters a tangible sense of community and collective identity. The fundamental human quest for order will undoubtedly continue, but its expression is shifting. We are moving from a model of imposing a preconceived cosmic blueprint to one of cultivating an emergent, intelligent harmony. This new order respects the individual thread while nurturing the strength of the whole tapestry. And what of mythology? The stories that gave meaning to the ancient city plans will not disappear. They will transform. New narratives are already emerging, stories of sustainability, of planetary interconnectedness, and of our role as cosmic citizens of a fragile, living world. These myths will provide the spiritual and ethical depth for our next great urban experiments, giving purpose to our pursuit of an order that is not just smart, but also wise. From the celestial maps of our ancestors to the intelligent ecosystems of our future, the human story is written in our enduring desire to build a world that makes sense, a world of harmony, meaning, and belonging.